Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Uncle John. We're coming together for another chapter from Looney Coon by Sam Campbell. We're learning all about nature and especially about a rascally raccoon named Looney Coon. We just want you to know we're continuing to pray for you and your families as we all go through this social isolation together. But now we're ready for another chapter from Looney Coon, and this is chapter number 10. Can you believe it? We're already at number 10. This one is called The Killer Strikes. Andrea and her circus, as we began calling this family of raccoons, came nightly after this first visit. However, we seldom saw them swimming. I sat one twilight after another with my movie camera ready to catch them, but never did I record the scene. Only after daylight had faded to the point where pictures could not be taken did they come, making their V-shaped wakes through glossy gray waters. Other times they came well after dark. Our concern for their safety was very great now. The 6 cubs were still small enough to tempt Ginny Bobo. The little ones were becoming increasingly bold and often wandered away from Andrea to play and hunt. They were much more open to the owl's observation and attack. We heard Ginny Bobo's eerie call every night. All too frequently it came from the direction Andrea and her family must follow on their nightly journey to the island. "How soon will the cubs be so large that Bobo won't be able to get them?" Ginny asked one night. "I believe if they escape him for 2 or 3 more weeks, they're safe," I reasoned. "They're growing rapidly and learning to defend themselves. Remember Ollie's remark that animal development is more education than instinct? Just notice how Andrea is teaching her babies all the tricks that make the raccoon such a respected creature." That evening, as we saw more of this educational process, the circus had already landed on the island. Jenny discovered them on the trail that leads from our campsite to the cabin. "Here they come," Jenny announced and switched on the floodlights to illuminate our yard. "Andrea is first, and there's Looney Coon right beside her. He's mother's pet, all right." It was apparent from the first that Looney Coon was Andrea's favorite of the entire family, and she his. Not that she neglected to train any of them, but while the other 5 cubs played with one another and loped about the forest independently, Looney Coon stayed close to Andrea. They ran together, fed together, and played together. I was in another part of the house that evening when I hurried when Aunt Jenny called. "Sam, you missed something," she exclaimed. "Andrea turned a somersault," she laughed. "Watch, maybe she'll do it again." Looney Coon hid behind a little balsam tree, and when she came along, he jumped at her. She turned a complete flip and landed on her back. Looney Coon was scuffling with her and, of course, getting the worst of it. At the end of this round, Andrea had pinned him to the earth with her front feet the way that she holds down a captured frog. Looney Coon was struggling and making little chattering noise, likely the raccoon for "Let me go!" Andrea held him longer, nipping him here and there until he ceased struggling. Then she released him. Back into the brush he ran in that funny lope of his. We stayed at the window and watched. "Oh, look! Look!" I nudged Jenny. "Here he comes again." The young cub came out of the brush, creeping stealthily as a cat. Andrea had gone to the pan of food we'd left for her, and was just about to settle down to a quiet meal. Suddenly, Looney Coon rushed and jumped at her face. We saw again her ability as an acrobat. Catching the spirit of play, she warded off Looney Coon's blow and then turned a forward somersault in the air, landing on her back. Looney Coon tried biting at her throat, but quickly her strong paws put him in his place, which was flat on the ground. The other cubs, with or without invitation, now joined the battle. For a few minutes there were raccoons all over the yard, scratching, biting, wrestling, squealing, growling. Then the battle royale ended as suddenly as it had started, and everyone settled down to dinner. "Do you notice," I said to Jenny, "that Andrea never actually gives them anything to eat? In fact, she snatches food away from them if she can. Here, I'll show you what I mean." I tossed a single peanut near Andrea. "Now, Of all food, the peanut is the favorite with raccoons. The very sound of a peanut falling will attract their attention from anything else. When this peanut hit the ground, the entire family made a grab for it. Andrea, stronger and quicker than her cubs, reached it first, and not even Looney Coon could get a single bite from her. "Why, Andrea!" exclaimed Jenny. "I'm surprised. That's no way for a mother to act. You should share with your babies." "No, they must learn that in the forest it's first come, first served," I commented. "Animals have to grab their food, even fight for it before it gets away. A frog, a toad, or a mouse won't come and offer himself to these fellows. They must learn to catch things quickly. By her example, she's training them for practical living." "I suppose so," Jenny said, disappointed. "Couldn't she wait until they're a little older to be so practical?" "There isn't much time for babyhood in the forest," I replied. "Owls and other predators won't wait." "But look at them now," Jenny broke in. Andrea and Looney Coon had begun a strange little raccoon habit we call wuzzling. As if by prearrangement, they had placed themselves beside each other, head to tail, and each one was chewing in the middle of the other's back. It was a clear case of "you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours." No doubt it affords each a measure of pleasure and loosens summer fur which will soon be exchanged for heavier winter coats. This wuzzling would continue for 10 or 15 minutes, with the raccoons changing positions often. Sometimes Looney Coon and Andrea chewed at each other's throat fur, sometimes in that difficult-to-reach spot at the base of the tail, but each wuzzled the same area on the other. Jenny and I went outside with a supply of peanuts and sat on the front steps. The raccoons gathered about us. To cultivate their friendships, we presented peanuts to each one personally. Occasionally, we gave them small bites of marshmallow, another favorite food, but we limited the amount, for sweets are not too good for animals. The little fellows climbed all over us. Apparently, Jenny has trained them to be unafraid of us," Jenny said. "How often have we seen that?" I commented. "When any kind of animal has been friendly with us, this friendliness is communicated in some degree to the children. I believe, though, that all youngsters are naturally friendly." We made our first motion pictures of the family that night, using floodlights. Looney Coon seemed cut out for a movie career. It was he who struck the unusual pose and did the unusual thing in every scene. "What a ham we have in that little fellow," Jenny declared. "Look how he sits up and poses when the lights go on. He's vain, camera conscious. That's what he is. That youngster is headed for Hollywood." He was an actor, all right, but with a streak of clown. While we were in the house for a few moments, we left the camera on the tripod in the yard. Looney Coon climbed up on it, wiped his dirty feet on the lenses, and then stepped on the trigger release and ran off 100 feet of film with the camera pointing at nothing but the ground. We photographed all the family that night, and it was a good thing we did. We never saw all 7 together again. The next night, when they returned, there were only Andrea and 5 cubs. Jenny Bobo's cry had a tone of contentment and triumph. And that is the end of chapter 10. Tune in tomorrow and you will get chapter number 11, and Aunt Nikki is going to read it for you. Bye-bye. See you next time.